I think I would describe Derek as pretty determined, self-motivated. He's always kind of been a leader, not a follower, but a leader. And like I said, pushed himself and was very motivated. Mm-hmm. And sports were always something that he really loved.
Derek was running the ball, and he was running a sweep, and then he was carrying the ball toward the end zone, and somebody tackled him from behind, and the ball fell out. And it was kind of uncharacteristic of the way he plays the game. And, you could just tell something was wrong. And we called a timeout, and one of the coaches went out onto the field, and he grabbed Derek, and he said, you better get off the field. And he hollered at us, and he said, there's something wrong here. You guys better check him out. And then, we went from there. And then, Mike evaluated him, and then after, probably 2 or 3 minutes, on the sidelines, asking him questions and stuff, and he collapsed.
Next, initially you jump into that assessment of, you start at the top and work your way of what's going on. You have an airway, he's breathing, I have pulses. You kind of look at assessment. He was not responding to me from voice or painful stimuli. He wouldn't respond. So at that time, something's going on. You need to move.
The day the call come in, I was here working at the station doing some paperwork, and the call come in as a football player that was unconscious up at the school at the football field. You get up there, and when you pull in, you can tell by the people that this turns out to be a pretty serious call, just by the way they're waving you in and where they want you to be. And
we just kind of went through what we normally do at a call. We assessed the situation as fast as we could, realized that StarCare was going to be called, Lincoln was going to be called. They were all going to be called to the scene.
Between Corey and our first firefighters that were on the scene with him, and they talked to me, and I just made the call to 911 center saying that we wanted StarCare and to the football field at Malcolm High School. We had the paramedics coming from Lincoln already then also.
As we were leaving the station to go out there, the dispatch told us that StarCare was en route. So on the way out there, we encountered pretty heavy traffic. Just before I got out there, Malcolm gave us an update that the patient was unresponsive with the head injury. And as soon as we got on the location, we could tell that he was posturing, which is a bad sign of a head injury. And the two things that he needed right away was airway management and rapid transport to the hospital. This was a perfect example of how a trauma system should work. The first responders were on scene almost immediately. ALS care was there shortly behind and was able to start advanced care. And then he was able to get rapid transport quickly to a trauma center. So all the pieces kind of came together on this one. As soon as we got there, we had him immobilized, put him in the back of the medic unit, and started IV access. At the same time, StarCare was landing. Got them in the back of the medic unit and assisted us with establishing his airway, getting him ready for transport, moving him onto their cot, and then they finished the transport.
He needed to get to a trauma center quickly. He most likely had a head injury that would require immediate intervention, whether it be surgery or clot evacuation. And with the traffic and being that far out of the city, that golden hour, we didn't want to steal any more of that golden hour than we had to. The golden hour is the hour from the time of the accident to the time that they would get into surgery. So from the time of the accident, I think till we got there was maybe 15 minutes. So he had another 45 minutes before, if they would have driven, it would have been at least 30 minutes. So he would have lost quite a bit of time. And it only took us 8 minutes from the time we lifted off till we got here to get him into the ER. As soon as we lifted off, usually we'd like to give the trauma center a 10-minute warning before we get there. It was only an 8-minute flight, so as soon as we lifted off and got clearance from air traffic control, we talked to the trauma center, told them that we had already intubated the patient, that he was completely unresponsive, and that we had to give some atropine. And just to let him know that he was already, sometimes it's a sign that you're having brainstem herniation, and just to let him know that he was very critical.
You know, in any given day, a call will come in that we're getting a trauma, and at that point, depending on what the injury is, we determine if it's a level 1, 2, or 3. And that day, he was a level 1, meaning very, very critical. We have a trauma protocol that we follow whether you are a 1, 2, or 3, and that is that we call out to the operator, and all the ancillary departments, when they get the call there's a trauma, everyone has a job to do. So we made the call that we were getting a level 1 trauma in. Derek, we used ice bags because it's in the literature that if you cool down the body, there's less need. I don't know how to explain it the best. They just have better outcomes if you can get the body cooled down. Obviously, you don't have to work as hard. When you're out and it's hot, you work a little hotter. So in Derek's case, yes, Dr. Burton did request ice bags. So this was something new that we hadn't done.
The protocol itself basically involves cooling kids down to moderate hypothermia, meaning 32 degrees centigrade, and that they were having good outcomes with the heads, and we had head-injured patients. We had discussed this with the University of Pittsburgh, and we were thinking about doing that. When we got the call at about 4 o'clock of a young patient already in extremis, being intubated, blown pupils, and the idea that the thought that was reported to us that the pupils had been blown for almost an hour. This met the perfect criteria to do everything we could possibly do to possibly save that brain. In order to do this, you pack the patient in ice, their head, their neck, their groin, their armpits, all over their body. You give them IV saline that is iced, and you put iced saline down their nasogastric tube into their stomach and keep their stomach cold. The idea is that you're going to cool those brain cells down, decrease their metabolism, decrease their need for oxygen so that the swelling that is there won't deplete enough oxygen to put them into cell death type of pictures, as well as just decreasing the swelling and the transitation of fluids. Like Grandma always told you, when you got bonked in the eye, you put ice on it. Grandma did know better in a lot of what we do, and we're finding out that the old wives' tale, some of them do hold true. We immediately notified the neurosurgeon on call. Dr. Kent was on call and told him that he had a bad head injury coming in.
We had received word initially that Derek was coming in and that he had been severely injured. When he arrived, the neurosurgical team had already been set up, as well as the trauma team. And because of that, we were able to expedite his movement from the emergency room to the CAT scanner and then into the operating room in order to perform the surgeries that he needed to have done. He had sustained a very significant injury with bleeding and with severe edema and swelling of the brain. When he first came, we were unsure as to whether he would survive this injury. He had very minimal signs of brain activity. And our concern would be that we weren't going to be able to get him taken care of as quickly as need be. We had to remove a portion of Derek's skull, and because of the amount of swelling, we had to take it off and put the skull into his abdomen. That allowed the brain to swell and also kept the bone safer if we needed it at a future date. He had suffered a severe injury. There was a large amount of bleeding. Some of the major veins in his brain had been torn and needed to be repaired, and we were able to do that.